Hey everyone. So I found this week really interesting. I think that in theory, I like the idea of compassionate release policies, but as we reviewed the information provided in the PowerPoint this week, it became very apparent that um, compassionate release is basically like a pretty name for kicking inmates who are maybe cognitively impaired or uh, mentally ill or just all around unhealthy out of the prison system. And then now they are society's problem yet again. And so I think it is just really hitting home for me that when a person ends up incarcerated, society wants them to be locked up and put away. And then once they become ill, that same system that is meant to contain them then wants to release them and kick them out with nowhere to go. So I think the best course of action, a few people have mentioned this already, I think an actual facility that is intended to be maybe a less restrictive, more hospital setting, especially those for those inmates who are experiencing cognitive impairments such as Alzheimer's and dementia. Where they can get medical treatment and it's still technically a prison facility, but without those same restrictions of like jail cells and using handcuffs because that might aggravate someone with dementia. So I think there is like a middle ground that is missing from the current compassionate release policies of like where can we send these individuals once they're released from a restrictive, like more higher security facility. Where can they go? So I think Heather was the one saying that Kentucky right now is like researching facilities in Connecticut that might have this like middle ground option. And then even in the video, there was a facility in New York. So I think there just needs to be a more specific process of where these individuals will go once they reach a state of like cognitive impairment or if they need a higher level of medical care. I find it interesting, though, as I was thinking about this, that if you think about where tax dollars go, they help fund, state-run prisons. And most of the time, tax-paying citizens don't mind paying those taxes because then the quote unquote criminals are locked up behind bars. But then when it comes to paying for their health care, they don't want to pay for they don't want their taxes to go to like a better level of care, even though taking into consideration that these individuals are exposed to higher health risks and health hazards. So I just think collectively on a more macro level, like it's interesting about how we might be able to educate the public a little bit more about the way that like funding streams work and what the point of these facilities would be. Open communication, but I think that is a rarity in our culture and our society. So yeah, lots of like nuances I think that come up. So just to summarize once again, like I am for the compassionate release policies, but only if that individual is aware of what it is that they're signing up for and if they have somewhere to go before being released. Otherwise, they're going to be back out on the street. And now we've left an individual with no food, no shelter, no resources. And so I think additionally having social workers inside prisons could be beneficial for those things because for someone who has been locked up for say 20, 30 years, they don't know what the world on the outside looks like anymore because things change rapidly and we all have seen it, especially now with technology and social media and things like that. So they wouldn't necessarily understand maybe the world around them in a way that's like familiar to them from before, prior to being incarcerated. And so I think having a social worker who assists with this planning that maybe works with the Department of Corrections as well as these like health facilities could really mitigate some of these risk factors and make it easier to like and a smoother transition for these individuals to go from a more like maximum security prison to a hospital-like setting that is still considered like a detention facility. So I'm excited to see other people's thoughts about these and maybe get new ideas.